talk about needs versus wants, why it's important to know the difference and what it looks like. A need is what's something that's necessary to live a healthy life. And a want is more of a desire or a craving, something that's extra or unnecessary considering like how you operate in this world. And to further go into like what a healthy life is, I think now we're at the point in our civilization is that, you know, we're really talking about mind, body, and soul. At the beginning in caveman, like it was very like just our physical body trying to stay alive. But now, you know, because we're so advanced or we're getting more advanced, it's time to start talking about the health of our emotional body and our spiritual body, because as we see with our culture or with mankind, we're really driven by things that are just thoughtless, and we adopt these beliefs and patterns and act, and we're facing a lot of different diseases like on our physical and even spiritual diseases, which show you that we're lacking taking care of those parts of our body, like those parts of ourself. And so we really want to focus on like internally becoming healthier, you know, and what that looks like. Well, to be body, mind, and soul healthy looks like understanding why you act the way you act, understanding who that future, holding a future image of yourself and how you want to contribute. It's focusing on kind of collaborating and creating a better world, because for so long we've been destroying it, and you can see physically, even in like a family structure, of how we destroy, you know, small like self-esteem and you know, adventure and speaking and being creative and you know, dancing, you know this whole idea of you know, you're supposed to be seen not heard, right, mentality of how children used to be raised. So there's a lot of these beliefs that we have to overcome as a society and as mankind, and that's kind of where we're at right now.
Right.
So the goal is to know how to ground yourself in today's reality. If you can identify what your needs and wants are, it gives you a lot more playing room to move around and to negotiate, right? If everything is a negotiation and you're in control of how you feel and think, but you're not in control of everything you interact with, we are to some sort of degree, but not everything. And then there's the other energy of what you're interacting with. It gives you more play, more different options of how you can respond and how you can react, and it's a happier place to be in because it's coming from a positive and abundance point of view instead of a lack, instead of like, I don't have enough.
Right. Yeah, I mean, what I was thinking about as you were talking was if you are identifying what your, you know, different level needs and how you're meeting them are, and you identify what you're doing right now, you know, let me say this. People often get stuck because they feel like, you know, there's nothing else they can do differently, and they're just stuck. And you know, we got into that earlier this week, and I think, you know, doing this process or program of self-evaluation will help them realize that there's you know, infinite options. What they're doing right now is just one thing. And so if you really evaluate, you know, if you don't want what's going on right now, then you've identified the hardest part, which is what you don't want. If you know what you don't want, then you can go ahead and figure out what you do want. And all you really have to do to you know, make sure you don't go through too difficult of a transition is figure out what your needs are, so that you can meet your needs while transitioning yourself into what, you know, something else. And so, you know, we talked about the word judgment a little bit earlier this week, and you know, we often have these preconceived notions, ideas, beliefs, and we hold them with judgment. And so we are a very fear-based creature on our most basic level. You know, like you're talking about caveman, you know, fight or flight, existing in this very basic level of existence. And we've come to a place in society where we don't have to exist there anymore. And so if we can identify those basic human emotions that are either unnecessary or why we're feeling them, anxiety I think is also a survival emotion, then you can you know, do the mental and emotional and spiritual work to you know, kind of surrender that and then move to living in the present, and experiencing the world for what it is, not what you either think it is or what somebody else told you it is, and make it what you want it to be. And so, for me, the way, I used to have a lot of wants, and they were just based on what either other people expected of me, and my needs were met, my basic needs were met, but I took them for granted. And so when I aligned my wants with what my actual needs were, I got a lot happier, because I stopped wanting things that were unrealistic or I couldn't make happen now. And what happened was, that operating out of, because when you want something you can't have, you're in a state of lack. You're creating your own state of lack. And so when you can get out of that state and feel like you have everything you need, more stuff will come to you that you don't even need.
Yeah, and I just want to add in that, that's beneficial, like to create that drive, that forced drive, to get something you don't have. But the health part, to maintain healthy, is all about the story you tell yourself,
right,
why you're doing that, right? And so it's very difficult to be a healthy person with ignoring two of the sides of who humans are, right? If we're just focusing on our body, and not our mental and spiritual side, like what it means for that, then it's impossible. And we're shifting, right? We don't have to live in this lack point. And so it's like a societal shift that everybody's having to contribute. It's new to everybody. It's not something like, we've practiced for a long time. But I do want to say, I thought it was so interesting because you said you used to want things that other people wanted from you. And I think that's so true, right? We want things of what other people expect stuff from us, and we want to be able to deliver. Other people, if I'm expecting to live in a fancy rich house, then I'm expecting other people want to do that too, and they might not even want that, right? But if one person is putting that out there and holding that expectation and communicating that to you, and if you don't know what your values are and what your needs and wants are, you will probably just adopt that because it's expected. And then you'll find yourself in the situation of wanting things you don't actually have the story for, right? You don't actually know why you want them. And so you get in this place of never achieving them because you don't have that inspiration to get it done, or even motivation besides an external source of judgment, which is like,
or you get
negative.
The thing and you didn't even actually, it
You
wasn't
don't
even
want
your
it.
want.
Yeah, that's
and
why
so
people
there's
get a
no
bunch of money.
fulfillment from actually achieving the goal, and so you've put in all this work, and so there's almost a feeling of disappointment, sadness, or emptiness from trying to do something that you don't even know why. And so it creates another negative feedback loop for yourself.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it was completely unnecessary.
Yeah, it's like the promise of utopia, right? Like,
Right.
you will never get it if you don't have a definition for it.
Right.
Right? And if you adopt someone else's definition without thinking about it yourself, you're not going to get this promised land. Like, you will not feel better. And the idea of getting what other people, expect from you is because you're going to feel great, right? You think you'll feel great, but we have to do this work, this backwards work. And I will say, it reminded me of, rich people, or you win the lottery, you get a bunch of money, you're still not happy because of the stories and the self-esteem and your needs and wants. Like, lots of people are not having conversations like these, right? Like, they're just starting, but they're not in depth and they're not two-sided. And so we say a lot of things in our head and they don't make it out of our mouth. And so when they don't make it out of our mouth, we don't get that validation that we need, that it's a real thing to be talking about, right? So I do think that we have basic needs that we all have in common, and then there's some needs that we don't share. As far as like my emotional health and my spiritual health, Kyle and I share similar spiritual health and what we do for our maintenance, but we don't have to have the same program in order to achieve what we identify as spiritual health. But for my emotional health, Kyle has a very different emotional health and strategy in order to obtain it than I do. And that's fine. It doesn't really matter what his is, as long as he knows it and he can find it, because that's his wholeness. And as long as I can find mine, that's my wholeness, and that's where I can contribute and show up as the best person I can, which makes me the better teammate to you in a relationship, and it makes you feel stronger. In order for us to fully show up into life and to stop focusing on anxiety or I'm not good enough or I can't do it, and embrace everything that we can do and just go after it, we have to have this confidence. And we talked a lot about that in the self-esteem week, but it's this inner strength that you get from having this self-actualization and this self-discovery and being okay and used to and having a relationship just with the process of it, right? The process of self-evaluation is where you build strength, I think. There's no right or wrong answer. Like, there's not.
And it's evolving.
It's always evolving, yeah. And it's just, if you can answer why you're doing the things you're doing, give an honest, authentic answer, it allows other people to connect more deeply with you. Our connection is so deep because we put the effort in to really try our hardest to put words in, that match our thoughts. And it creates more of a shared groundwork, more of a template, a platform for us to engage on.
Yeah, I think the last thing that what you were, what we were just talking about sparked was the point in which you can differentiate when it's, when it needs to be about you and when it doesn't need to be about you. And if you can live in a world where almost nothing is about you, it allows you to take away all of those thoughts of how to get, if you can meet your needs yourself or through, your program or whatever it is, then you can show up and meet other people's needs for them without them even knowing it. Yeah. And stop taking things personally, which allows you to then, create this better, more positive feedback loop within yourself, and it makes it easier to maintain your level of heightened energy or whatever it is you want to call it.
Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, that's the end for the day.